How often does being cringe come from being fucking courageous and having it go kind of wrong? But you were still fucking courageous. You still did something brave. Let the cringe set you free. I am cringe and I am free.
We have learned nothing from Reese if we haven't learned how to do that.
Seriously, he's like the most cringe there is.
He's made an entire career out of it.
He has.
Alrighty, so we got so much big news that it's like popping off the seam. So the big news is I got Reese Darby's birth time. I said I was going to do the thing. Yeah. I did the thing. I walked up to him. I asked him his birth time. And I was so excited to begin this opening monologue about that. But then we all collectively got distracted because Reese decided to post a shirtless selfie on Instagram.
I'm still kind of trying to come down from it a little bit.
It's hilarious because we're all like queer people. And here we are talking about some man's shirtless nonsense.
Yeah. Well, I am bi/pan, and they're the same to me. But the entire cast and crew of Our Flag Means Death has just reinforced the bi/pan sexuality for me. If I had any doubt, which I really didn't, but if I did, it's completely destroyed by the entire cast and crew because I'm attracted to every single one of them.
I think we're all waking up to this, but explain the lore and the what Reese is doing. He knows exactly what he's doing.
He knows exactly what he's doing. So we have all been following the downfall of Warner Brothers Discovery as measured by their stock price, which I believe is now almost down to 25% of its initial value when the merger started. I think when we will hit that mark, so that's a milestone, but we've been watching it go down and down and down over the
all-time lows the past 4 days in a row.
Yes, the past 4 days in a row and new all-time lows for the stock price, and it's been edging us all right above $7 for the last several days. And then yesterday, Moosh on Twitter posted we should all post tits on the timeline when the stock price goes below $7. And yesterday it closed at $6.99. So everyone's been posting tits on the timeline in various forms.
Not so different than any other day.
I know, right?
But this time all the tits are with the hashtag TitsUpWBD.
Oh, that's great.
We've been really reveling in that today. The stock market is closed today because it's Juneteenth here in the United States. So it's closed as it should be today. So there haven't been any further updates. We've all just been reveling in the $6.99 closing price Tuesday. And then just about 30 minutes ago, Reese posted a shirtless pool selfie on his Instagram stories with the caption, "Here you go then." And I don't know any other way to interpret that other than he knows.
He knows what's going on.
He knows.
He's following our shenanigans.
Yeah, and also getting some joy out of the stock price of WBD and getting in on those celebrations.
It's so good.
And of course, everyone's losing their mind.
Tessa and I are celebrating with sparkling wine. Everyone else is welcome to join if you have a beverage of any sort. This is a sparkling wine. I did not drink. I brought this bottle to 29 Palms. I did not drink any of it, which Lacey told me, I should drink something to get liquid courage to be able to get Reese Darby's birth time. I got it without any liquid courage. So I'll tell that story. The hotel lobby when me and Tanya pulled up was locked and closed and the person wasn't there. So we're like, well, let's go over to the venue and we'll at least check in. And as we're walking over to the venue, by the way, this is the middle of nowhere. It's the fucking desert. 4 hours to drive out there from Burbank. What are these people doing? It's absolute cult vibes happening out here. So we walk over to the venue and there's this shaded area with benches, and Reese is just sitting there by himself wearing a dark blue pinup short sleeve shirt. His family is kind of there, but they're like on another set of tables. And I see the blonde hair first, and I'm like, I think that's him. And I walk up and I kind of walk around because I'm like, I don't want to like scream out Reese to someone who isn't him. So I walk around and I see his profile and I say, Reese, I'm looking forward to the show. And then he brightened up and he gave like 2 big thumbs up and a big smile. And I was like, cool. I didn't get the tired Reese. I got the excited Reese. Yes. So I went in and checked in at the venue and I got my wrist tag and chatted with Irene Adler and some other people that were there. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go see if the hotel is open yet. But if Reese is still at that table over there, I am going to ask him his birth time. That'll be the sign from the universe that I'm supposed to ask him his birth time. So I walk over and sure enough, he's still there sitting by himself at the table. And so I say, hey, Reese, can I ask you a weird question? And he's like, it depends on what it is. And I said, do you know what time you were born? And he said around 9 a.m. because it was a cesarean section. And I really wish I was more grounded and in my body and in the moment, because basically as soon as I saw him by himself at the table, like just fireworks are going off in my brain. My soul is leaving my body. I'm like, I'm going to do this thing. The adrenaline is rushing. And so he says that, and I should have been smart and asked follow-up questions and whatever, because I had a gazillion pre-planned questions in my head to engage in a conversation with him. But basically I just go, oh my God, thank you so much for sharing. Your fans who are the astrology girlies are going to be like really into this information, blah, blah. And I just, I began kind of like rambling nervously. And then my friend Natalia, who was also doing stand-up at that venue, came over and I was like, oh, Natalia. And I gave her a hug and then interviewed her briefly, got distracted. And then by the time I kind of turned back to where Reese was, he was going somewhere else with his family. So that was fantastic. I got Reese Darby's birth time, which is around 9 a.m. He's definitely solidly a Taurus rising, because if we assume that the cesarean took some time, then, that still puts him definitely in the Taurus rising thing. So I was able to do zodiacal releasing, annual perfections, all of the astrological cool timing techniques. So we were able to, I'll just give a kind of like a brief overview of my findings. His final dispositor, which is the planet that rules everything in his chart and basically like who he embodies on planet Earth, is the planet Jupiter, which is the big, greater benefic, the planet Jupiter in his 11th house. So the giver, the creative, the fertile planet, think of Thor and think of, the big daddy Santa Claus energy, right? So the 11th house deals with fans, groups of people, also like your hopes and dreams. And so he's basically put on this planet to bring joy, bring that good feeling, positive vibe. And his Jupiter he has a Mercury Jupiter conjunction. So he brings this joy and everything through words. And that's really fascinating, because when he turns 63, and there's this timing technique in astrology called zodiacal releasing, where you can find out when the chapter of someone's life that is going to be like the main thing that they're remembered for on the planet, when that chapter of their life gets activated, you can calculate when that is going to be. And for Reese, it's going to be between the ages of 63 and 80. So that is going to be the period of his life that he will be most remembered for. And that is the Virgo area of his chart, which rules the 5th house, which deals with children, creativity, fun, romance. And so I imagine when Reese is like around 63, something that he possibly writes is going to be the thing that he will be most remembered for. And it will be his thing of most eminence, like He's already famous now, but that's going to be the time period where he's like the most famous. And so anyway, groups of people is where Reese gets the most joy and goodness and good luck and all of that. And then we're not going to talk about negatives. We're not going to, let's not do that. We'll talk about difficulty in our own chart, but we're not going to talk about difficulty in Reese's chart. But for me, it's really interesting because I found out he's a Pisces, is a 29 degrees Pisces, not a 0 degrees Aries as I previously thought. And I found out that he's a 29 degrees Pisces at 29 palms. And I believe numbers and signs mean things. And so his sun is at 29 Pisces. My Mercury, which is like my communication, is at 29 degrees Virgo, exactly opposite. So it's like, all I want to do is talk about him, which is true.
Yep, sounds right to me.
Amazing.
So that's kind of my initial findings of Reese's chart. But let's get into introducing you all. And Ring is wearing a shirt that says directed by Taika Waititi.
I am.
And let's do what's the most gay pirate thing that happened to you this week. Who wants to go first?
So my city is in a state of emergency right now.
Why? What happened?
A water main that carries 60% of our water basically exploded 10 days ago. So yes. So we are on severe water restrictions at the moment. It's like everybody is limited to like 3-minute showers, and everybody's using like gray water to do everything. And we're just kind of trying to survive. And luckily for me, I am generally just kind of a filthy person, so this is fine. Except I was walking home yesterday. I had an appointment, and I was walking home, and I was looking very cute. I was wearing my like sheer white lace pants and like sort of a big white sort of like sweater with like a mock neck. And as I was like walking along, I passed a man who looked at me up and down, and then like to no one just angrily shouted, "People looking awful showered for water restrictions." Which,
how dare you?
Let me tell you.
Okay, I just have to say, he wasn't shouting at no one. He was shouting that at you, but pretending to be shouting at someone else.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
In case you didn't figure that out.
Oh, no. Yes. He was shouting in a very general way, but I was like, yes, I hear you. However, sir, listen, I haven't showered since Saturday. I just look cute, but I was like, this is a very Stede Bonnet moment. This man is about to throw blood on me.
You're in all the white, and you're going into the dirty, like unwashed.
Yep.
Hi all. So yes. Oh, also, I got free bread today.
Free bread.
Yes.
Oh my God, where does one get free bread?
So I was up at 5:30 this morning to give a conference talk in a ridiculous time zone. And then I went to help my best friend move to Sweden. And then she and I popped in to like the very last hour that like this very cute little patisserie is open to get like a hot chocolate and a croissant. And like the man is from France. And so I always chat to him in French. And we got to like the last few minutes that they were open, and he came over and he was like, "Oh, we're closing in 10 minutes. And we were like, "Oh my gosh, we're so sorry, we'll get out." And he was like, "Oh, no. Do you want this bread?"
Oh yeah, I want this bread.
And so yes, we both got
oh my God,
these very lovely baguettes.
Oh my God. So hang out at bakeries while they are closing.
Yes, and chat to the Frenchman in French.
You got good bread.
Good bread.
Really good
Really good bread.
Excellent.
Chloe, what's the most gay pirate thing that happened to you?
I did go last week on Friday to a bike ride called Critical Mass. That I don't know if any of your cities have it. I think many cities do. It's a bike ride for sort of reclaiming the streets for bike riders.
Yeah.
And having everything be so car centric and dedicated to cars. So it was critical mass for that. And it's also very like sort of anti-capitalist and anti-colonialist in sentiment. And it's June. So this was the Pride ride.
Nice.
So we all had rainbow flags on our bikes, and my girlfriend was in town. So she came too. And it was just a really good time and a really gay time.
Yes, gay pirates, but on bikes, which
exactly gay pirates on bikes,
which I love. Ringa, you're being attacked by a panther.
He wants to anytime I sit at this desk and type or work or anything, he's like, "Let me sit in your lap." But so this past Saturday, I did a flea market thing. It was just a normal, regular flea market, but I had flyers for Harold's, my friend's day bar, and the like first people that came in and bought something from me both had pride shirts on. And the one guy's shirt says something like straight but not dense or something like that.
Straight but
And
not narrow?
maybe that makes more
I've seen that
sense.
one.
Yeah, whatever it was great. And then and I had a pride shirt on, so they were talking to me about that, and I was like, "Oh, here," and I gave them flyers. They're like, "Oh, we've always wanted to go to Harold's," and I was like, "Yeah, you should come by sometime. It's great." And then I had to drive out to my mom lives like an hour away, and I had to drive out there for my grandpa's birthday. So I did that, and then was planning on just like I drive Grubhub, and I was planning on just doing that the rest of the evening, but a friend of mine I don't see that often was at Harold's and was like, "Come to Harold's," and I'm like, "Okay." So like totally not planned, but went to Harold's anyway. And these people were there and they were like, "Oh, I was literally just telling something about your shirt," because the shirt I had on was like a bunch of cupcakes, but the frosting is all the different pride flag colors.
Cute.
So they were just telling their friends that they had brought to this bar about my shirt. And then I walked in and it was such a weird, like, I know, Carly, you're going to be like,
Synchronicity.
yes, because like I not only wasn't planning on going there, they were like, we weren't going to come here tonight, but we all got together and we were just like, let's try it out. And then I got there and there was no parking on the street. So I went and parked in the staff lot, which is behind the bar. And I walked in through the patio, which I don't normally do. And they were out on the patio. So if I hadn't done that, I don't know that I would have caught them, you know.
Oh
It
my.
was so funny. And then they were like, "Here, tell our friends about the bar." And so I stood there and gave like a 15-minute like dissertation about, the bar and the business and everything. And I said, because the patio still has all these like decorations up from the Calypso's birthday party because everyone thinks they look cool. So they're just like kind of staying up.
Nice.
So, oh, and there's a harpoon in there still hanging.
Oh, yes,
and
I'm so glad.
There's a really famous painting of Mary Read about to kill some guy, and she's like showing him her tit.
Tits
Like,
out. Tits out is the theme
Yes.
of this episode.
yeah, it's
Hell
like,
yes.
by the way, you're getting killed by a woman. And I had that up for the party, but I was like, this has to stay up all the time.
Yeah.
The energy we want to have in the bar. So there was a couple things, and I was like, oh yeah, we I have gay pirate parties, and they were like, what is a gay pirate party? And they were like, can we dress as pirates? And I'm like, all right. So it was 2 straight people and 2 queer people, and none of them had ever heard of the show.
Oh my God, they never heard of the show.
They never heard of the show.
This is what's wrong with America.
It's so weird, but I'm like always there.
Just that. Only that.
Yeah, so I told them, and they have a homework assignment. I was like, when you walk through the bar, make sure you talk loudly about how you're excited to go to the pornathon, because the owner who is bartending really hates that people are so excited about the pornathon.
I think the pornathon, because I shared it on our Instagram story.
Oh, thank you. It is called a spoken word pornathon, and it is where you pay a donation and give me a pairing and or a situation like a commission for a fanfic, basically, and I write a fanfic about it, and then the bar owner, Athena, who is very pro sex but has been very sheltered in the church as a youth and is still very like, oh God, no, I can't say the words, like,
oh,
this is her idea. She came up with this event and it raises so much money for her bar. She's always like, let's plan the next pornathon, I guess. But like, I write these things and she reads them, seeing them for the first time as she's reading them. So they're crazy. And she will read them and be like, like, he touched his, oh God, no, I can't. Like, and she'll just be like, nope, like in the middle. And she's blushing the whole time. And the first ever pornathon was one of the best nights of my life because everyone was just having the greatest time ever. And this is coming up next month is the 3rd one. And it's down the street at a bigger location with air conditioning. So we're very excited that we always sell out and we're going to be able to sell more tickets. And she's like super not looking forward to it, but it's great. And last time I had 2 Our Flag Means Death stories, And the first time I had one, and this time I'll have one. So
Nice.
very exciting. Yes.
Yeah. So since Ringa's story was about synchronicity, I'll tell my traumatizing synchronicity story. In order to make this less traumatizing for me, I need you to laugh a lot. I need you to treat this like a sitcom. And I found that this is the best way to tell someone a traumatizing story is let them know the genre that you are telling the story in. Because if they react, if you tell something traumatizing and they react with, oh God, no, that's not good. That's not good for my mental health. I need you to respond to this with banter and laughter. Okay. See, this is an important part of communication and setting boundaries, letting people know how they are supposed to react to your story. Okay.
But this is the thing, we're all queer, so we all laugh at trauma. This is our nature.
It's true.
So this is at 29 Palms. And for those who've listened to the podcast before, you know that for the last 3 episodes, I have been wanting to get Reese Darby's birth time. When we go to 29 Palms, the main event, the main thing, the main spectacle was this podcast recording with these 2 people interviewing Reese and Bobcat Goldthwait about their astrology charts. And I was like, oh my God, for the past 3 weeks, I've been wanting to do Reese's astrology. And here I come to this event and it's all about Reese's astrology. This is fantastic and amazing. So after that podcast little recording thing happened at the event and everyone's kind of taking a break, one of the hosts of that podcast was over getting drinks and talking to someone. And so I'm like, oh my God, she will get a kick out of the fact that I've been wanting this for so long. And then she just did the thing. So I went up to her and said, you will not believe this amazing synchronicity that happened with your show. And she's like, oh, what? I'm really into that. Tell me. And I said, I do this podcast called the Our Flag Means Fanfiction podcast. And for the last 3 weeks, I've been doing this bit where I've been practicing different ways I would ask Reese Darby his birth time. And I come to this event and here you guys did the fucking thing. You guys did it all about his astrology. You got his birth time. And she says, why did you want Reese Darby's birth time? And I say, because I'm obsessed with him. And at that moment, I had realized that I had stepped beyond the safety of the fandom bubble and I was in the real world.
No.
The expression on her face when I said obsessed with him, distant, glassy, and very cold. And she says, oh, you're one of those girls Reese has been talking about.
No.
Me who is a writer, who makes my living coming up with clever things to say, who is told by her supervisors that she has feisty zingers. Me, who is good with words, doesn't say anything to fix this situation. What I say is, oh no, I'm not like that. And the blank, glassy, cold, gray stare remains on her face. And in my brain, I'm like, fuck. And I start info dumping about Reese's astrology chart to her.
Oh my God.
I have no control over my voice at this point. Words are just coming out of my mouth as if this is going to remedy the situation at any point. And then she backs away and she goes somewhere else. Back at the hotel room, I'm like, Tanya, okay, this happened and we have to record it and we have to make a bit up about it. And so Tanya's like, yeah. So I record myself and Tanya, I'm recounting this story. And Tanya is doing the really good thing that you do in comedy, which is you yes and you yes and you make it worse. And Tanya, says, oh yeah, she was backing away. It was so bad. You were so bad. We kept on saying it was so bad over and over again. And by the end of me recording this bit, I just have to lay down. And we yes and into my deepest pit of trauma. And I think I was also on my period at that point. So it was extremely emotional. And that might also explain why so many words were coming out of my mouth that were the wrong words at all. And then I even woke up in the morning, counting this conversation that I had with this person. Oh, you're one of the girls Reese has been talking about. No, I'm not. I'm not like that. And the first thing I say when I wake up is, Tanya, I know last night we recorded like this bit about like how bad that was, but I need you right now to tell me that it wasn't as bad as I'm remembering it.
She just doesn't understand that person. And I think it's super weird for her to say that. Like, that's
No, okay.
like,
This is the thing. Okay. It doesn't matter how funny you are. It doesn't matter how charming you are. It doesn't matter how good at zingers you are. When somebody just decides, for whatever reason, that they're going to be kind of an asshole, I don't think anybody can respond to that in a reasonable way. Like,
could have said, okay, I could have said if she said, you know, oh, you're one of those girls Reese has been talking about, and I could have owned it, and that would have been funny because that's what you do. But I said, oh no, I'm not like that.
well, I mean,
but no.
yeah, she
I
was
think
making it sound like it was something awful, and it's not something awful. She just doesn't get it.
And it's also, okay. So like, when you say something like, oh, I'm obsessed with it, man, everybody understands that in the context of colloquial speech, it means I'm a big fan. You're
Right.
at his show. You're having a conversation about him. You're riffing. Like, you're not fucking Kathy Batesing it, you know? Like, it's just like, that is just standard human speech.
Some people are Kathy Batesing their
Some people, but like, you can tell, and you are
Right.
not giving
No.
that energy. You are not
It's
giving that
not
energy.
you.
Like, and also, okay, listen, I am generally a relatively charming person. If we do a show on cringe, I will tell you a story that will turn your hair white.
We are going to do the cringe episode like coming up soon. Yeah.
Good. Because
What
like,
I am thinking now about that story
Yeah. Go, Chloe, tell us.
is that she was just setting you up to make you look bad because she has an astrology podcast. Yes, that's what she was doing at the event.
It wasn't specific. Her podcast isn't astrology. It was just like, oh, we're going to have an astrologer on and we're going to do these birth
but
charts.
she was talking about astrology.
Yeah, she did say during her podcast that she doesn't believe in astrology. During the interview, Reese said that he's like 51% believes in astrology. So like kind of, and she said that she didn't believe in astrology.
that's so like straight cis dude of her.
So,
I do kind of want to talk about that because I'm interested in that. But my point is, regardless of what she believes about astrology, she was having this podcast episode about astrology. And then you tell her you've been wanting Reese's birth time. And she says, why do you want his birth time? Why the fuck does she think you wanted his birth time? You were just talking about astrology at the event. So it seemed like she was trying to get you to say something incriminating.
There was a Mean Girls vibe that all of a sudden happened. And I was
For
like, I
real,
haven't felt this
though.
way since middle school, actually.
Yeah. Someone's playing weird hierarchical games.
Every time I think about it, I'm still re-traumatized. So tell me, do I get a cute pass? You know what I mean? Like, am I cute enough where I can be cringe? And the only correct answer is yes, Carly. Yes, you are cute enough that you can get.
Yes. But also, like, let the cringe set you free. I am cringe and I am free.
We have learned nothing from Reese if we haven't learned how to do that.
Seriously, he's like the most cringe there is.
He's made an entire career out of
He
being cringe.
He has.
And so can we.
It truly is setting me free.
Also, how often does being cringe come from being fucking courageous and having it go kind of wrong? But you were still fucking courageous. You still did something brave.
Yeah, you did the thing you wanted to do.
Yeah.
I wish I was there to have said something back to that lady.
I'm very good at being
I wish my
withering.
brain cells were there to say something back to this lady.
Mood, God.
Because that's the other thing. Like all the comebacks in my head that are just now, weeks later.
You so rarely manage in the moment like a really good comeback. Like, I swear to God, I have a list in my brain of all the times I have actually managed a really good comeback.
Oh, let's do a quick. Everyone tells a story of when they did a really good comeback.
This happened a few weeks ago while I was still busy dying. So I had gone into the hospital. I was still just losing all of the blood in my body with terrifying rapidity, just like
oh God,
fucking spraying all of the blood out of my vagina and into the fucking sea.
The sewer system is
Yes.
now like a new creature, a Tessa blood creature is
Okay, well, this is the thing.
rising out of the sewer
No.
system.
The water main failure is entirely my fault. It's like my blood gained fucking sentience in the sewer system and it smashed its way the fuck out. That's what happened. That's what
Yep.
happened. Yes,
Yep.
absolutely.
And it's a film that's like an allegory for femininity and for like feminism, and it's like Godzilla, but it's Godzilla coming out
Suffering
of the sewer.
rich. Yes,
And-
yes, exactly. 100%. Okay, so I've been bleeding all the fucking blood out of my body. I have been to the hospital. At the hospital, they have, given me an IV to hydrate me and to give me tranexamic acid. And they've also sent me up to get an ultrasound the next morning and to come in for a follow-up. So I go to get my ultrasound, and then I go back to the hospital where, in the first place, I was told that I would not have to, wait. I was told, you have an appointment, so you can come straight through. They made me do the whole triage process all over again, including, me going up to the registration desk and the woman looking at me and going, "Is this a workplace injury?"
I hope not.
I know, right? So I'm annoyed. I'm tired. I don't have any blood. And I finally get through to see the doctor. And I'm sitting in this room and I'm waiting. And this man walks in wearing below the knee length, khaki cargo shorts and a blue polo shirt.
Medical doctor.
This is a medical doctor. It is giving colorblind frat boy, but he's in his 50s. And he walks in, and the first thing he says to me is, "So the bleeding is slowing down now." And so I say, "Well, it's not. It's actually not. I know that the tranexamic acid can take up to 24 hours to start working. So, and I say to him, I figure my body is just clearing out whatever mess it made in there." And he gives me the most suspicious look. He looks at me and he goes, "A mess? Is there something we should know about?"
Judgy is not the correct mood for a doctor.
I'm so tired at this point. I look this motherfucker dead in the eye and I say, "Well, darling, you're holding the ultrasound. You tell me."
Nice.
So good.
Thank you.
I want to fight him too.
You would win. He did not look strong.
So we bullshitted for 50 minutes. I love that story.
What? Let's bullshit another 50 minutes.
Well, keep in mind, I think both cringe stories and snappy comebacks, because I have a snappy comeback story I did, but we're going to save it for a future episode.
Me too.
I have so many snappy comebacks that I'm like, good me. I had the words at that moment in time and I said the right thing and I made someone realize they were being a dick. Yeah. But we're going to get to the main showcase here, which is the Astroholery episode, which is a word I made up to describe what I do when someone's like, "Oh, here's a traumatic thing that happened." Oh, and I'm like, "Oh, well, you know why it's happening? Because the moon is conjunct Saturn." And then they can say, "Would you stop your astroholery?" And we're talking about the charts of the people on the show that we like, and we're talking about our own charts. And I already kind of talked quite a bit about Reese's chart. So here's the thing I've noticed. A thing that is a big important thing in your life, it will show up exactly hitting certain planets in your chart. For instance, the organization that I work for, we have an exact timed chart for that organization. And its midheaven is exactly conjunct my Venus. And the president of that organization, her Mars is exactly conjunct my Venus and that midheaven. And I have a coworker who is always kind of grumbling a lot, and her Mars is exactly conjunct the descendant of that organization. And so I always all my coworkers, I look at their charts and their planets are hitting exact degrees. Even I was writing a speech for someone at the organization, and I decided to do a little research because it was about AI, and I did a little research to find out what was the first ever paper about AI. And the first paper about AI had the chart of that paper had its Jupiter exactly conjunct my Venus and exactly conjunct the midheaven of my organization. So it's like, anyway, it's amazing. Astrology, I say, is a language to describe karma. And so you see how these like really cool archetypes. So like in Reese's case, Chloe, your Venus is exactly conjunct Reese Darby's sun. Like, okay, so Venus is the planet of love, enjoyment, beauty. Venus plays a huge important part in Reese's life because he's a Taurus rising. So he's kind of like, his personality is ruled by Venus. He likes the nice things. He likes creativity. He likes beauty. He likes, and he's a Venus in a Saturn sign. So Saturn is like the planet of old age. So one, he gets more beautiful as he ages. I think we can all agree, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No debate there.
And his time when he is going to be the most famous, the most eminent, will be when he's in his 60s. So that's really cool. And the older he gets, the more kind of like well-known he gets. And he does his stuff for like a long time. That's a very like Saturn thing as well.
So explain to me more what our conjunction means, because I'm also obsessed with Reese Darby.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just a great example. Your Venus, the thing you love, is conjunct his sun. His sun is his identity, is how he operates in the world. You know, his hopes and dreams and all of that is his sun. So they're both at that 29-degree point of Pisces, which is a very, very powerful degree point. 29-degree Pisces is the absolute end of the zodiac. So it's kind of the land between the imagination world and the real material world. Like it's the moment of like being embodied from like the spirit world into material reality. It's the end of one cycle and the beginning of a new one, which starts at 0 degrees Aries. So it's kind of an old soul energy. For Venus being there, Venus is exalted in the sign of Pisces, which means that's a place where Venus is the most powerful and where Venus can do like really amazing creative work. And I'm wondering what would happen. Maybe you'll get to meet Reese one day. And I'm
also wondering what would happen.
What would happen? Would you
really want to
hit it off right away? I noticed that Tanya, who talked to Reese at 29 Palms, like really easily, her moon is exactly conjunct his Venus. And she had no problem just like walking up to him and like having a conversation with him and telling him things about like, because, you know, we're all involved in animals and stuff. And I was like, how did you do that? You know? And yeah, so I wonder what would happen. But you also have, you know, your sun and Mercury are in Taurus, which is his rising sign, which is his, you know, the rising sign is your identity, how you kind of operate in the world, who you are. And so that you have both your sun and Mercury. One, you know, you like talking about him. Mercury is the planet of communication and talking. Just like my Mercury is opposite his sun. I like, you know, I like talking about him. Your Mercury is like right there on his descendant, your Venus. So yeah, you like to talk about him and write about him. And
I certainly do have a lot to say about how his portrayal of Steed affects me, as I wrote
it's changed your life in many ways, right?
Yeah, and as I've gotten to know Reese more in his body of work and just his view on life and approach to it, through listening to his Cryptid Factor podcast episodes and hearing interviews and things like that, I also still feel like I'm getting a lot from that too, of how to just kind of take life a little less seriously and find joy in things and revel in the unknown.
Yeah. And that's like the revel in the unknown is a huge like 29 degrees Pisces kind of word, because like the Pisces is kind of like this. It's a water sign. It's a feminine water sign. It's whenever planets are kind of going through Pisces, that's when we see a lot of like UFO and otherworldly things happening and show up. Like a lot of UFO stuff has happened while Saturn has been in Pisces. So it is an otherworldly part of the zodiac. And let me share my screen so you can look at your chart. And this is a good time to talk about our charts and what you see. And I'm also curious to see for everyone else, like where their charts hit. But Chloe, so the main thing I look at when I'm like looking at someone's chart for the first time is whether they're a day chart or their night chart, because that will tell me what is the most difficult and easiest planet in their life. So you are a day chart. I can tell because the sun is above, this is the horizon here. So the sun is above the horizon. You were born like around noon. The sun is like high in the sky. And that means Mars is your most difficult planet. And Jupiter is your most helpful planet. So, and it will bring you all the good things. So
what was Reese's deal with Jupiter again?
Jupiter was in his 11th house, which deals with fans and fame and pursuing your dreams. It's called the House of Good Spirit. And so his chart is extremely lucky. I think good things just come his way, but also he's a really good person because all his planets have to report back to Jupiter, which is really well dignified in his chart, in a sign that it does really well in, and in a house, the 11th house, which is a very benefic house. So he does good in the world, and he has a lot of good luck come his way. And as we can see from his life, obviously. And you, Chloe, you have a lot of good luck come your way in unexpected ways, unexpected surprise things kind of like will hit you some, especially when you are by yourself and when you are engaging in anything that's like a spiritual practice, like a meditation practice, especially if you ever wanted to travel somewhere to be by yourself for a long time, like go to Peru and drink ayahuasca.
I do want to do that, actually.
Yes.
That would be like a hugely beneficial thing for your life. Engaging in the spiritual, like you have what I think we talked about this a little bit, like you have this intense gift for being able to see the world between worlds, like, and the creatures and spirits and beings that live in that realm between the spirit world, like interdimensional. You have a lot of interdimensional capabilities. You have a lot of like psychic gifts. Have you ever had any premonitions or seen ghosts?
I have never seen ghosts. I have had some very mildly prophetic dreams sometimes, but it's very interesting to hear you talk about that, because when you say that, I don't immediately think of like all of these supernatural and paranormal experiences I've had, or all of these times where I've felt really connected to kind of things outside the normal realm of reality, whatever that is. But I definitely feel like that's still a very relevant part of my life right now, because I feel like it's something I was pretty attuned to as a kid, and kind of something like I spent a lot of time thinking about souls and imaginary friends and those sorts of experiences. And then I think I sort of lost that or repressed that, maybe.
Was it possibly
it's
because of your father?
The repressed British man, possibly.
Yeah, because that's kind of what the chart indicates. Whenever someone has this combust Mercury, which is the sun is so close to Mercury, and your Mercury is retrograde, the personality of the father can inhibit your ability to communicate. And a huge part of your skill as a communicator is communicating with the spiritual and the woo and and all that. And I can imagine a personality like a father who's very kind of repressed and British might be like, oh, that's not real. Or, not exactly nurture that gift that you have.
Perhaps. Yeah. I mean, I don't have any memory of ever being sort of shut down for any of these interests, but I do feel like I didn't necessarily learn how to have open and healthy emotional communication in my family for a pretty long time.
Yeah.
So that's a work in progress, but just kind of getting, more in touch with the non sort of rational, linguistic, logical, scientific kind of side of my brain and ways of seeing the world is definitely something I've been thinking a lot about in the last several years, because I've spent, I don't know, probably the last decade or so pretty immersed in like the realm of logic and that way of thinking. And I've also, as I continue to move through life, have encountered the limitations of that and where it hasn't been able to serve me or help me.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in all that.
At your next birthday, the year after your next birthday, I have a feeling that you might travel abroad and go on this kind of spiritual journey, and it'll be extremely rewarding for you. So like May 3rd, 2025. So 2025 might be your year that you travel abroad, and either you go to Peru and drink ayahuasca and have this spiritual experience.
So, funny story. On my way to work today, I was listening to NPR, and there was an interview with an actor whose name I'm forgetting right now, but he was raised in Nigeria. And it just sent me along this mental path of thinking about how I've always wanted to visit Nigeria or Ghana. And then I started sort of daydreaming about this experience of just going on that trip by myself and seeing what comes of that. And as you sort of alluded to earlier, I've some really impactful times that I think of as memories, and really good times I've had have been with myself. That sounds a little dirty. That's not.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey,
But also
not like that, but also like that.
so keywords for you, especially next year: traveling abroad, engaging with wild animals that are large, and
I don't know how to do that in Pittsburgh.
having a spiritual experience. So maybe are there any wild animals that are large in Nigeria?
I don't know.
I don't know. I think you should plan it. I think it's going to
I
happen.
think I should plan it too.
I think it'll be like really fun. And because that will also be your Jupiter return will happen in 2025, which is Jupiter will be returning to the same place in the sky it was in when you were born. And that's a 12-year cycle that always, you can kind of mark like, 12 years ago, I was doing this. What were you doing about 13 years ago? Do you remember?
What year was that?
13 years ago was 2010.
2010. I was in college. I was on study abroad.
There you go.
I was on study abroad. I was in Israel.
There you go. And did you get to have some, obviously you went abroad. Did you get to have some alone time where you had kind of like a spiritual awakening, like a kind of learning about yourself sort of thing?
Yeah, I went to Accra by myself. Just stayed in a hostel and just like wandered around and looked at the Mediterranean. I don't know that I had any sort of major revelation about myself at that time, but it was just, I think it's impactful and just kind of, knowing that I can enjoy being by myself and kind of find comfort in my own company, which isn't something I always feel. I'm more tend to be like, how the hell can I like get out of my brain? I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
So having those sorts of experiences always kind of really stick with me. I also went with some friends to Sinai in Egypt one weekend, and it's a pilgrimage for a lot of people. I'm not religious, but to climb Mount Sinai in the middle of the night and watch the sunrise. So we did do that, not as a pilgrimage, but just as an experience, and saw the most amazing stars I've ever seen in my life.
That's amazing. And yeah, so that's amazing. Every time you have a little Jupiter return in your 12th house in Cancer, you do something where you travel abroad, you experience being by yourself. And I think that's a really important part. That's going to be like one of those things that is like an important part of your life and a cycle that's going to repeat every 12 years. And I think that's cool.
That is kind of exciting. Yeah, because this is definitely, like I said, a project for me these days of how can I kind of get more in tune with myself. And I've been trying to start a meditation practice and kind of find some spirituality or way of making sense of the world that is meaningful to me, and try to find connections that I feel like I've sort of lost over the years.
Fascinating connections, like with what is the world, what is reality, what is the universe. That's
and like I don't know how to articulate it, but like, so I don't my life philosophy is that things don't really have any inherent meaning, and they just sort of are. And we as conscious humans can make meaning out of things, and that's very empowering and very exciting. But I've also been like, okay, well, how do I do that? What sort of framework do I use, or what kind of signals do I use to process information to try to make sense of things and create meaning? So kind of getting more in touch with things that can help me do that. And when I do get in a sort of meditative state or have a spiritual experience of some kind, I do feel like there is some just sort of web of connection between everything, and the relationships between things are sort of what gives things meaning and purpose. And when you can sort of get more in touch with think about what those connections are and how everything is connected, you can kind of start to better understand like how you fit into that and start to kind of make meaning out of that network. That probably makes no sense whatsoever.
I'm curious because you're a Leo rising, which is a fixed sign, and your Sun and Mercury and Taurus, which is a fixed sign. Do you believe in having one worldview, or are you open to your worldview changing?
Absolutely open to my worldview changing.
Cool.
The only thing that has been consistent is that I don't think there's any inherent meaning. But as far as how we construct things after that and how the world might work, I mean, I there's more things in heaven and earth ratio than are dreamt of in your philosophy. So I think to think that whatever my worldview is could never change is very narrow-minded, because who knows what the hell is out there.
Yeah. This is a good time to say, what is everyone's theory of the universe? I used to be there's no meaning in anything. Then I kind of really started deep diving into astrology, and I'm like, it's all connected. And I learned the astrologers, the ancients, figured out the system of astrology to show you that throughout your life, there will never be all good times or all bad times. It's a cycle, and you will have times that are good, and then you'll have from this time to this time, it's going to be bad. And then from this time to this time, it'll be this sort of color of bad. And this, and so it's a cycle. And so it shows you to always remain centered on the wheel of fortune and know that there's going to be, as Rhys Darby says, there's going to be peaks and there's going to be troughs. Basically, astrology shows you when the peaks and troughs are going to be and what color the peaks and troughs will be, what texture, what feeling they're going to be like. So you can just be like, this is shitty right now, but it's going to end. And then it's going to be less shitty. But I don't
think there's any inherent meaning, and I think everything is connected.
Yeah.
I don't think that's compatible at all.
So I'm like, I don't know what the inherent meaning is. As I said, kind of in the group chat, I just pursue the things that tickle my brain, and things that tickle my brain are like the Loch Ness Monster, astrology, aliens, our flag means death. I don't know what it all means, but I'm just like, there's something there.
Yeah, and there's fun in exploring why is it just this thing that tickles my brain. Like, it's been so meaningful for me to explore, for instance, why I had such a strong emotional connection and reaction to Our Flag Means Death. And like, because after I watched the first season, which is when it fucked me up, I didn't really have any idea why. There was nothing I could sort of articulate there. But then spending more time with it and really thinking about it, I learned a lot about myself and about lots of other things. So I think there's a lot of merit in pursuing just what tickles your brain.
Yeah. The cool thing about astrology is that you can find the charts of the people involved in the thing that tickle your brain, and then you can see whether they line up. And you're like, wow, so there's something happening here. Like Taika's Venus is exactly conjunct my sun, which is like, Chloe, your Venus is exactly conjunct Rhys's sun. So it's like, I like the things Taika does. And then David Jenkins' chart, he was actually born a month after me. And he has basically all his planets are all very similar to where my planets are. Like all his planets, his Saturn, his Sun, and are in Libra, the stellium and Libra are all conjunct all the planets in my Libra. And then like his moon is making a exact trine to like my Venus and everything, or my Jupiter and everything. And I'm like, so obviously I really like the things that these people do, and it hits my chart in an interesting way. And I want to talk about it all the time. But let's move on to Tessa. So you are a Taurus rising like Reese Darby, and you have your Mars in Taurus like Taika does, and you have a Mercury retrograde like Chloe does. Combust your sun like Chloe does. So I'm curious, did you also have a father with a big personality who may have like stifled your communication ability in some way?
No, I mean, my father is actually a very quiet, very gentle, very soft, very emotionally intelligent man. I grew up with a dad who would read me poetry and cry. So yeah, no, he's definitely. I mean, I think he has strong opinions, and I think I was certainly very heavily influenced by like his opinions and his worldview as I was growing up. I was also weirdly located in this strange little cult town in southern Alberta.
Town. Okay.
Yes.
Sun is also like authority figures and cult leaders and cult and ideology. So the sun is also ideology. So being kind of like oppressed by an ideology.
I was, yeah, and that the experience of living in that town was deeply stifling. And I think in a way that I think was one of the first things that started to radicalize me, because I was lucky enough to be growing up in a household where, I was encouraged to think and to engage with politics, and where I could form my own opinions. But I mean, I think certainly like growing up when I was younger, I think I was more narrow, like as children often are. But I think as a result of being in that weird little cult town, my sort of reaction against that was, embarrassingly, in the early 2000s, I was very into the new atheists. And luckily, it only took a couple of years before I was like, actually, I think these guys are assholes. And so I think I grew, especially after moving to Montreal, into a much softer and a much more open kind of worldview, which has a lot more space and a lot more possibility when it comes to, I think, the mysteries and the strange spiritual quirks of the universe.
And another really important thing about Tauruses is especially Taurus rising people. Taurus rising people tend to have beautiful voices, and you have a very beautiful voice. Reese Darby, who's also Taurus rising, has a very beautiful voice.
Thank you.
And you're like known for your voice. People hear your voice and go, "That's Tessa." Yeah.
Yes, it's true.
Ringa, and let's look at Ringa and Khan, because we know Ringa and Khan are besties. Ringa is a Gemini rising with Jupiter right on your descendant in your seventh house. Your seventh house rules your relationships with other people. So Ringa, you are by having Jupiter like right on your descendant. This is extremely, extremely lucky. Like, I'm jealous. You can walk up to people and start talking to them, and they will be nice to you, unlike me.
Most of the time, they'll be nice to me.
And so you're especially good at like making friends with people in foreign countries as well. And so I'm so jealous of you. I just like your chart. I'm like, I wish I had that. I wish I had that Jupiter in my seventh house so I could talk to people without being awkward. But and you also have your Venus in Aquarius like Reese does. And like, so Aquarius is also a place in the zodiac. David Jenkins has Aquarius happening. Reese has Aquarius happening. Let's look at Khan. I actually haven't looked at Khan's chart at all. I have it up on here, but I haven't like looked at it. Khan has like a whole shit ton of planets in Leo. So that's why he has got that big personality. He is interesting. So he's what you kind of call a balsamic moon, which is
A balsamic moon.
balsamic moon.
Like, is that the same
Delicious.
balsamic as like balsamic vinegar?
Yeah, exactly. Because
Yum.
balsamic means dark.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I did not know that. I
You
thought
learn
this was
something
a
new
thing.
every day.
Wait, what is balsamic? I want to fill in.
He has a balsamic moon. So it means that the moon is not going to be making aspects to any other planets before it eventually conjuncts the sun and becomes a new moon. And this is often associated with kind of taking a long time to find your identity and being recognized will happen later in life, that sort of thing, which we can definitely see with Khan.
Yeah.
And interestingly, Khan has North and South Node in Taurus and Scorpio, which I believe also Reese has that. Oh, no, he's Sagittarius. And where did I see that in someone else's? Okay, never mind. I'm imagining things. What we could do is we could do a little. Okay, and he has a Jupiter in Cancer, just like Chloe does.
What does that mean?
Fascinating. So that's like one of the best places for Jupiter to be. It's extremely exalted. So, that means I wish I knew if he was a day chart or a night chart, because then I could tell you how powerful it's going to be. But that means eventually later, especially since Cancer rules his moon, and the application of the moon to the sun is going to be something that happens for him later in life. Later in life, he will have a lot of good luck. I wish I knew with good luck with traveling abroad and doing something like that involves giving to others, things of being fertile, being creative, all those big Jupiter.
So he's going to knock his husband up.
And he has Saturn. This is really, really interesting.
Carly's like, anyway.
I know this is me. I'm like, this is my problem. I'm like info dumping about astrology and not reading the room.
No.
And I'm like, oh, wait a minute, people are talking.
No, it's great. Just a real quick note for people who are listening to this is that Khan was willing to give his birth time, but he doesn't know it, and told me he barely knows what day he was born. So I don't know that we'll ever figure that out. But
the big fascinating thing is he is going to be having his second Saturn return very soon. So the Saturn return is the most difficult time in your life. When we have it, when we're around between the ages of 27 and 30, 20, sometimes 28 and 32, around there, that's the first time Saturn returns to the same part of the sky as when you were born. And usually around that age, you have a big crisis. Like, I got divorced at that time, and I'm so glad I did, thank God. But usually at the time, like when it happens, you're like, oh, this is awful. This is the worst thing ever. But then you look back and you're like, oh, actually, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, even though it was hard. Do you guys remember anything that happened when you were between the ages of between 27 and 30? That was a big pivotal time in your life. 27, 30, sometimes to 32. I think I had my Saturn return when I was like 32, 31 or 32.
Sort of.
Yes, but it's way too bleak.
If you're willing to tell us or give us the genre of,
Let's skip that one. Genuinely, let's skip it.
it's something you said something bad happened then, right?
Yeah.
was it something health related?
Not exactly. No.
Okay. I won't pry.
I'm just, I had to do some quick math to figure out years, but when I was 31, I think, I had like a big health thing, and it was when I was first diagnosed with like depression and anxiety, and I was having like massive anxiety attacks to the point where I thought I was dying, and like couldn't leave the house, and was just like literally organizing my life to die. I was like getting my affairs in order because I'm like, I don't know what else this is but death. And then I got on some meds and everything was great. But
oh my God. So Tessa, Chloe, and Ringa, all three of you had your Saturn return in your sixth house. And the sixth house is called the house of bad fortune. It's a house that deals with health. It's a house that deals with your job and your workplace.
Rude.
And also your pets. So some people, so you might have noticed themes for everyone here related to job, health, bad fortune. Also mental health. I know people with planets in their sixth house, depression is a thing.
Yeah,
For sure.
riding that train too. I guess it would have been, 32 was kind of the thing that came to mind for me was kind of job related. I changed jobs and there was a little bit of sort of identity crisis that came with that of sort of what direction am I going with my career. But I had a sort of bizarre experience with it because the job that I entered into when I was 32, was I 30? Yeah, I was 32, 31 or 32. The math is hard, but I'm kind of in like biomedical research. And the job that I went into, the like team does a lot of research on women's health. And I didn't expect this at all, but it ended up entering into that space. Not that I don't think that is an important domain of research, but it triggered pretty intense like gender dysphoria for me, with the kind of like women's health being very wrapped up in like the reproductive system and hormones, and in a way that I just felt like very unidentified with, and being very immersed in this field as a research topic just ended up like bringing up a lot of gender stuff for me. But that did then lead to a lot of questioning about gender and exploration of that. And then I think that ongoing journey was facilitated by watching Our Flag Means Death and engaging with the fandom. And I know it's been, really revelatory for a lot of people in addressing these types of questions to engage with that show. But that's something that comes to mind for me that I was going through around that time.
Fascinating.
Okay. Sorry. I've been thinking about sort of like ways to sort of like frame things. Yeah. I think when I was 28, I had moved cities. Someone very close to me had been very ill and then had died. And then very shortly thereafter, I was assaulted.
Oh, Jesus. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. But I mean, that did also lead to me reaching out to performance communities and approaching things in a much more open and a much more radical way than I had had a chance to before. And I think I won't say that those events necessarily shaped me, but certainly the way that I fought to survive them did.
Nice. I love it. Saturn is often described as a teacher, and Saturn kind of gives you a lesson when you're born, and then is like, okay, I'm going to leave the classroom and then come back in 30 years. And if you haven't learned this lesson, you're going to get your ass kicked. And then you're going to learn the lesson for real. And usually 30 years is not enough time to learn the lesson. So Saturn comes back and kicks your ass and gives you a tough love lesson. And I mean, for me, it was like, Carly, you are happier being alone. But I was married at the time, and Saturn just was like, no, you should not be married. You do not belong in a marriage relationship, and broke that up. And I was like, when it happened, I was like, oh no, this is awful. And then I was like, oh, I'm free at last. And then when Saturn, every 7 years, Saturn kind of does a little check-in. And so 7 years later, I was dumb and got into another relationship. And Saturn was like, no. And I was like, oh, you're right. That time I was the one to leave.
You're
and
right.
now I know, Saturn. Now I know I am happier by myself. And so I'm not going to. So we'll see when I am Khan's age. If I do something stupid, like get in a relationship.
Why does he have no houses? Is that because we don't know the birth?
Yeah, we don't know the time he was born. So, but I can kind of give a flavor to Khan's Saturn return. Well, we're not going to talk about anything negative, but he's got this wonderful grand water trine, just like Chloe does. And so it will be something involving creativity. When he has a Saturn return, it will actually be conjunct transiting Neptune right now. Transiting Neptune is the deceiver planet. It's confusion. There might be some creative confusion about the direction that he's going to go in next.
He's going to have too many rules to pick from.
It will be whatever flavor between when he was, like I said, between the ages of 27. So in that mid 90s, something similar happened. So ask him what the most difficult part of the 90s was for him.
I mean,
maybe we shouldn't say it.
No, I'm not to get into any details. Just like that's about when he stopped drinking.
That's good.
That was a big deal for him.
Okay, that's a lot of people go on a sobriety journey during their Saturn return. So sometimes by the time you're 60, you learned your lesson, and Saturn will give you a little reward. Like I'm thinking of someone somewhat with a similar chart to Khan, in that having that kind of void of course moon is the composer Joseph Haydn, who when he was like 30, other people were stealing his music because he would give his music away for free, and other people were stealing his music and profiting off of it. But by the time he was 60, he got like his major patron, who was like going to fund his music. And then by the time he was 90 and his third Saturn return, he was the most important composer in Europe. So Khan might be a situation that's kind of like a Joseph Haydn situation, where like when he turns 60, this is his time to flourish. If I knew his birth time, I could do his zodiacal releasing and find out.
Now I have a question. When you've said like this aspect of Khan's chart, I also have, for instance.
Yeah. Then
does what you just explained also apply to me? Or does it matter the larger context of the chart?
The specifics of your chart and his chart kind of matter. So you both, let me see. You both have this grand water trine, which is a pretty rare thing that points to a lot of creativity and a lot of free flow of emotion, and a lot of like being able to like make stuff out of your emotions really well and get help for your creativity, which is awesome and cool. And but like you have your Saturns in completely different places. You have your Saturn in Capricorn, and he has a Saturn in Pisces. So, there's a lot of like, and we don't know what his rising sign is, but that the creativity is something that you both share, and you might be creative in similar ways. You may produce and work with creativity in a similar way.
It's very interesting to me because I still sort of, I don't know, maybe with Reese like 51, 49, I don't know where I'm at. I like with sort of what I believe about how anything works, but I find this all very interesting as just tools to be able to use to try to explore parts of myself and other people, and connections I might have with other people, why I've felt impacted by certain things. Like I was kind of talking earlier about what I feel like following more of Reese's career has kind of offered me in my life. And so I'm curious to know like what things I share with some of these people in the cast, like Khan, not so much as like, there's this sort of like inherent link or whatever. I don't know how any of this works, but just of like, I want to explore and understand better, like why I feel drawn to this person. And like, I love Khan and his Instagram stories and his support of trans people and his expressiveness, and just like to have some door opened into something that we might have in common, that is something that I can use to explore what these actors, this show, these characters, what they mean to me, rather than just kind of not knowing where to start.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting tool for me.
Yeah. And something to think about is Khan, really kind of found his creative voice late in life. And so that's something that might happen to you as well. I could actually do your zodiacal releasing. We don't want to be here forever, but kind of to figure out like when is it that your tree of karma will blossom? That sort of.
It also seems like Khan has found a lot of his creative release and in really being really queer and playing really queer roles. And that's really inspiring to me as I try to find my own creative self and outlet for creative expression as well, to really embrace my own queerness in that.
And random thought, I say Taurus is the queerest sign. So Reese is a Taurus rising, Tessa is a Taurus rising, and Chloe is a Taurus sun. The reason Taurus is the queerest sign is it is a masculine symbol. It's a bull, but it's actually a feminine sign.
Hell yeah. That makes my genderqueer brain really happy.
I know, right? And Reese, we know, is so good at playing women, and so I mean, when he's Louise, he's so beautiful, and it's like
he is so good at playing women. He doesn't, it's not a caricature at all. He doesn't, like a lot of men when they try to play women, raise the pitch of their voice, but he makes his voice softer.
Yeah.
And his movements just a little softer. And it's so good.
It's so respectful, and he seems to like engage with women really well. I mean, Venus as a planet is like a feminine planet, and that rules his first house. So he's ruled by a feminine planet, and a lot of his signs are feminine. He's got all these planets in Pisces, which is a feminine sign. And so that's really cool. Anyway, Ringa, I did a synastry chart with you.
I see that. What the hell is going on?
So we're kind of seeing how your charts line up here. So what's the inside one? Okay, A partner.
I didn't know this was a thing.
Yeah, you can kind of see how the two line up. Okay, so the inside, I'm trying to figure out which one is you and which one is Khan. Okay, the inside is you and the outside is Khan. But a big one is ascendant sextile Venus. This is like almost exact. Friendships and acquaintances may result from this aspect. People feel excited in mutual presence, and they may often have friends in common. What I'm looking for is the exact aspects. I want to focus on the positive ones. Trine. So Jupiter, trine, Mercury, and this is almost exact as well. With this aspect, the lower mind of the Mercury person connects to the higher mind of the Jupiter person. So you are, Ringa, you are the Jupiter person because you have Jupiter in Sagittarius. To create multiple levels of harmonious understanding, Jupiter can generously nourish Mercury with ideas, which Mercury can easily digest, thus feeling satisfying expansion of the consciousness. Jupiter partner introduces Mercury partner to new ways of thinking, and the latter can be fascinated by seeing the value of expanding simple ideas. And at the same time, the Mercury provides Jupiter with the means for self-expression. If both are being practical and reasonable, this aspect can lead to spiritual growth for both partners. When light is combined with intellect, Renaissance begins.
Wow. Is that because I show him how to do tech things?
Yes.
Mercury trine Virgo. So you are, Ringa, you're the Mercury and you're trining. Mercury trine Uranus. Oh my gosh, I'm getting tired. We're going to have to end this soon. So you're Mercury. Ringa is trining his Uranus. This aspect creates harmony between the intelligence of Mercury, that's you, Ringa, and the unusual or imaginative knowledge that Uranus has collected. Through their lower mind, Mercury seeks to categorize and analyze all that is perceived, but in doing so, they can overlook a lot of things that could enrich thinking. Through this relationship with Uranus partner, Mercury becomes more inventive, original, and gains greater contact with the many existing opportunities, which otherwise might be overlooked. This relationship may have a touch of genius if both individuals will work together toward a common goal.
Damn.
And your Mercury is sextiling his Neptune. With this aspect, the mental capacity of Mercury is connected with the intuition and inspiration of Neptune, whose dreams complement Mercury's concrete reality. Neptune can inspire and support the other partner because of beliefs and visions, which can teach Mercury to perceive the aesthetic, natural beauty, and spiritually uplift the intellectual ability. Compatible harmony of this aspect includes the understanding of music and the arts.
Cool.
Good time. So those are some
A
of the
lot of big words. There's a
Yeah,
lot of blue lines there overlapping each other.
Yeah, the blue lines are harmony, are harmonious aspects between the planets, and the red lines are challenges. I wish we had a timed birth chart so we could figure it out, but
I'll
I
work
think
on
it's
it.
like I think
He just has the
overall,
birth certificate.
Maybe.
Maybe.
but I am noticing like that Sun Mercury thing. So my Mercury is opposite Reese's sun, and I enjoy talking about Reese. Your Mercury is opposite Khan's sun. You enjoy talking about Khan.
I do.
And your Venus is opposite Khan's sun. So I think that like opposition is like that the fan, the object of the fan's attention, that like you see him, you're like, I like that person. I would like to talk about them a lot.
Yeah, true.
Alrighty. This has been a chaotic episode that I'm sure will be a whole lot of fun to edit.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't know how I'm going to streamline this. And I even had ideas to intercut this conversation with like recordings from 29 Palms that I did. I don't know. I might do a thing where I like just make an experimental audio diary of my recordings from 29 Palms, because this is already a really long episode.
Yes.
I like that idea.
What have we learned today?
That there's a lot of shit going on here that I don't understand.
But I don't know how anything works.
Yeah. I don't know, but I'm kind of like, oof, right now. But it was very interesting. Thank you for doing all that for us.
Like a lot of work.
Do you guys
Yeah.
have any specific questions about your charts?
I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't really know very much about it. But yeah, I don't know. Is there anything that you think seems particularly key?
So right now, Tessa, your sixth house is activated, which is the house of bad fortune and health. So now until your next birthday, you will be focusing mostly on your health and your job and your work and stuff.
So you were born in Pittsburgh?
I was born in Pittsburgh, yes. My dad was finishing his PhD there.
Oh.
Yeah.
University of Pittsburgh?
Yes.
You.
Yeah. He was in the philosophy
Wow.
department at Pitt.
Me and Tessa have all these like weird location overlaps.
We do.
Did you live here for like any length of time before you moved? Do you have any memories?
So we left Pittsburgh when I was 3 months old and went to Houston. There is a photo of me and my brother from the paper in Houston, specifically because it was very hot and we were very cute. And so a photographer from the paper took a picture of us. And so that is all I have from Houston. But we did go back to Pittsburgh when I was 8. And so I was there for a year. When I was 8, I did great. There's a child shrieking outside. I don't know if you can see that, hear that. But so I was at, oh my God, I think I was at Linden Elementary School in grade 2 in Pittsburgh. And I do remember that very well. I remember all of my classmates. Actually, I think Pittsburgh was kind of important to me then because I was otherwise very much stuck in this weird cult town. And it was kind of exciting for 8-year-old me to suddenly be in a real city and to have friends, to like not be just completely isolated because I wasn't a member of the weird cult.
I had asked, I said we should talk about the cult thing on the podcast. So can you tell us about your cult town?
Oh God, it's just so it is. It's a weird mixed bag because there is a university there. That's where my dad works, and so it is a combination of people who work at the university. And okay, it is a very heavily Mormon town. It is like, so I think Southern Alberta is like the biggest Mormon population, like outside of like Utah. And it's very fundamentalist. It's very pro cop. It's very pro authority. And as a result of that, as a very young kid, I quickly realized that the cops were not my friends. And
yeah, that's a good lesson that everyone
Yes,
learn at
yeah.
some point in their life. Sooner the better.
And it's a weird combination because there's a large indigenous population here and they're treated so badly. And especially in a town like the town where I grew up. And so that's what first made me aware of the degree of racism that exists in my society, growing up as a little middle-class white kid. And so that was also part of my radicalization. And it's a deeply homophobic town. And
can you describe like the religion of the cult? Was it like a single cult leader?
It's mostly, it's just,
is it like,
so it's Mormonism. They're Mormon.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. And so it's very standard fundamentalist Christian, very closed, very much like one of the high schools. There was basically a hallway with like lockers where like, if you were Mormon, if you were not Mormon, you could not have a locker in that hallway.
Wow.
And like, as a kid, I was not a Christian. I was not being raised as a Christian. I was not. I didn't have any engagement with religion whatsoever, really. And that meant that I couldn't go to the other kids' birthday parties. And that meant that I couldn't, do sort of, basically, I was just kind of on my own. As a result of that, it was a very isolating space to grow up in, especially as, as I noticed all of these things, as I noticed the racism, as I noticed the masculinist and authoritarian aspects of this society, and I thought they were fucking bullshit from a very young age, and I have never really had much ability to pretend that I didn't think these things were bullshit. And so that further isolated me, because then I was the weird 12-year-old reading bell hooks.
Nice. I love that you refused to conform and that you just leaned harder into it.
Just harder and harder and harder and more anti-authoritarian, and adults kept telling me, you're going to get more conservative as you get older. And I only got more radical, bitches.
One of my favorite memes that I have saved is that quote, you're going to get more conservative as you get older. Or like, you'll be more conservative in your 30s, I think it said. And then it says, me in my 30s. And it's a picture of someone in a wizard costume burning money.
I recently sent a friend of mine just like a picture of two people in sort of like gorilla uniforms with like balaclavas on, and just captioned it, us.
So Ringa, your upcoming year, basically since January, you've been in also the 6th house, the house of bad fortune, the house of
fucker.
The house of work.
You're
and
right.
health. So,
how did you know?
So you've been having a bad time basically since January. You're going to continue.
I don't want to like, I'm not trying to undermine anything here, but this is the Our Flag Means Fan Fiction podcast. We have all been having a bad time since January.
This is true. But some other things that'll come up include like health, your job. You'll probably be quitting your job at some point, or leaving your job. Or if you have a job, you'll be like, I don't want to do this job anymore, or you'll be fired from this job. Have you been thinking about changing jobs at all?
So I'm self-employed and do a lot of gig work. And it is not right now being very fruitful. So I like what I do and everything. It's just, I need to do something that's a little more steady on top of everything else, because I can't live without money, unfortunately. And
so it's gonna continue, especially the next 7 weeks. It's gonna be hard money wise, and it's gonna be hard the whole year. Luckily though, in 2025, in at your next birthday, actually probably by June 2025, you will have a lot of luck with money. I'm very jealous of you, in fact. So it's going to be a hard year. Your next birthday, January 2025, things will start to get a little bit better. But especially by June 2025, you'll be like, the money is flowing. You might also be getting an opportunity to travel abroad.
I'm going to be the money bitch.
And it'll have something to do with your relationships with other people. And 2025 will be a very good year for you.
Interesting, because isn't it supposed to be like an awful year?
Awful year for everyone else. Awful year for America.
Oh God.
But
Is that
but
why I'm
you-
traveling abroad?
Just move in with me.
So will you like take in refugees?
Yes. I'll marry all of you.
You?
Come up here. We have weed.
yeah, and you're gonna be getting a lot of like prominence in you'll be out there. You'll be seen a lot more than you are now. So that's really interesting. And Chloe, what's Chloe doing? Let's see, next year.
Please tell me because I don't know.
Okay. Oh, yeah. I think I said this already. So this year, basically, since your birthday happened in May, you've been doing more things to get out there in the world and communicate. And you've been putting your writing out there. Actually,
Yeah.
you've been doing more. You'll be doing more things with groups all year. Mercury retrograde, which is coming up in like a few weeks, is going to hit you kind of hard. Like you'll start to be like, I'm losing my keys. I'm pouring water on my computer. I'm messing up my technology. My car is breaking down. You'll be dealing with all of that Mercury retrograde stuff. But overall, this will be a very good year for writing and for putting your writing out there in the world.
Great. I hope so. That's what I've been aspiring to.
Yeah. And then next year, you're going to be traveling abroad and you're going to have some spiritual experience being by yourself while traveling abroad alone.
I'm going to make that happen.
Yeah. And that's going to be really cool. So before we sign off, oh my gosh, I can't believe we've been talking for 2 hours. I'm going to have to edit this. But have you guys been reading any fics to recommend?
I have a couple. Yeah, I have a couple that have to do with this subject.
Oh, cool. Pitch them. Tell
Okay.
us.
So this one is called I Wanna Live This Life by Congedato.
Oh, you're going to have to spell that out for me.
Yeah, it's Congedato. And it is an AU where Ed is a writer and Izzy is a bookshop owner. And Ed's next book is about psychics and past lives. So they go see a psychic, and Izzy's very, very skeptical. And the psychic tells them about a bunch of past lives that they've shared together, including one where they were pirates. And Izzy's like, whatever, this sucks, And then, like, every night after that, Izzy has a dream about one of their past lives. Like, that night, he has the dream about Ed cutting off his toe and everything.
Wow.
So, yeah, so it's very interesting how that all pops up, but it's actually a very happy Ed Izzy story. And then I have one called Deckhands Ropes.
Deckhands Ropes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that apostrophe in hands?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's by Space Cadet Glow. And it's a very G-rated thing. The relationship is steady hands, it says, but there's nothing happening in this. It's mostly Frenchie asking Izzy about all of his tattoos. And he's talking about the meaning of different tattoos. And then Frenchie's trying to tell him about zodiac signs and
Nice.
what they mean. And Izzy's just like, that's a bunch of bullshit. Tell Ed about it. He'll like that. And that's kind of the whole story, but it does mention star signs and everything in it. And it's just a cute little thing.
And is Space Cadet Glow all one word or are there
Yes.
spaces?
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All one word. Cool.
Those are the two I have that are most on topic. I have a couple stargazing ones, but they're a little.
Tessa or Chloe, do you guys have any recs or anything you've read recently?
I have one. It's not necessarily sort of on topic insofar as like being strictly speaking about astrology or star signs, but it is just kind of vaguely mystical. And I love all of this author's work, and I will definitely be recommending more by them. I was going to recommend another one, but then you said we might do an Omegaverse episode, and so I'm going to save that.
Save it. We'll save it for the Omegaverse.
Hell yes. Hell yes. So instead, I'm just going to recommend The Old There Before by Steed Bunnett. And so that's Bunnett with 2 T's. Yes. And, oh my God, I love them so much. fuck. Every time I get like
Yeah.
an alert in my email and it's them, I'm like, oh motherfucker, yes.
Yeah. They're so
It's gonna be
good.
good and it's gonna be porn.
And it's
And
the
I
old
love
there
it.
before, like there spelled THERE.
THERE before, and that's all one word, the old there before. And so essentially it's that you have a universe, the universe that we saw, where Izzy has died. And then a few weeks later, after Steed and Ed have locked themselves away at the inn, Izzy suddenly materializes in the water next to the Revenge with both legs and sort of with no memory of what happened and memories of something very different happening. And he starts having dreams of what happened to Izzy in that universe. And it's
Nice.
a lovely piece of writing.
Nice. Cool. And Chloe, do you have anything?
Yeah, I have two. I'm recommending them because they both have some kind of witchcraft magic in them. Very lightly so, I would say, at the same level of the show. One of the fics has buttons magic.
Nice.
Button Eagle magic in it. That one is A Light Upon the Shore by This Wild Heart. And that one they're both multi-chapter set after season 2. And A Light Upon the Shore is still in the works, but it's like 75% of the way done. It's currently left off at a part where it's not too like cliffhangery. So I can handle it. Sometimes especially if there's a fic that's like really emotional, or I know it's going to be really emotional, I need to wait until.
Yeah. So it's like it's a post season 2. I've been wanting more post season 2 fics. So
yeah, both of these are post season 2. Ed and Steed are living at the inn, and then plot happens that kind of get them back with the crew. Especially A Light Upon the Shore. I mean, I could really see like A Light Upon the Shore being like a season 3. It's very
that's what I want.
Yeah. Yes, there's a lot of plot, but there's a lot of like really good character insight and fun interactions and a lot of like great moments with the crew. Actually, one of the tags for that one is conning the English Navy as a form of family bonding or something like. So that one's really good, and it's very much like in the tone of the show, but still both the humor and the like not shying away from some heavier stuff sometimes.
You're speaking my language. I'm gonna.
Yeah, I think you'll like it a lot. It's like really cinematically written. There's buttons magic. There's Ricky still being a menace. There's lots of great stuff in it. There's the blockade of Charlestown.
Yes.
It's really good. It's really, really good.
You're deep in the fandom when someone says blockade of Charleston and you're like, yes, Charleston, yes. Such nerds. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm really, really enjoying that one and really eager for the updates. The other one is also post season 2, things that happen after Ed and Steed have been a little bit settled in the inn. This one is complete. It's also multi-chapter. It's called Your Song Still Needs a Chorus by Hippie Commune. And there's some little light magic-y stuff towards the end of that one too. It's very sweet.
Commune. Okay, good. Is Hippie spelled HIPPI?
Yeah, I'll send you these.
Okay, thank you so much. Cool. And I have been enjoying the Podfics by Baby Kraken, who is a new Podfic narrator. They narrated Spectre of the Seas, our minisode, and it was like the funniest thing. The way they did the voices was like had me crying tears. Yeah. So check that out. And they're just doing a whole bunch of podfics now, so check out their SoundCloud. I really appreciate that. I also read Serve Who We Serve based on your all recommendations, and I was like, this is very nice. I enjoy this.
That was a great one. I know Tessa recommended that for the dark episode, and it was also on my recommendation list. So it was definitely worth the read.
Cool. Alrighty, so we all sign off. Anyone want to shout out what they're doing, where people can find you?
I'm a ghost.
Yeah, I'm writing porn for this.
I'm also writing porn.
Well, unlike Tessa with my porn, I'm going to very publicly be acknowledging it.
You can absolutely find mine. You just can't find it connected to me.
So if you would like to be there to witness the porn event, it is coming up next month, and you can buy virtual ticket.
Hell yes.
You should. And Benny says hi to
I
everyone.
love him. I
Hi,
love you,
Benny.
Benny. I love
Yeah.
you. Look at you, you angry little man. I'm gonna kiss your face.
Ring is holding up a very kind of like angry looking black cat. And
He's perfect.
the cat's
He's a
not so much angry.
tuxie.
He's angry because he wants to sit still on my lap, but he can't without me holding him. So we just can't always get
Gotta
what
give
we
him a
want,
chance.
Benny.
You've got to give him a chance.
I mean, I did. I do. Every time this happens, I'm like, go ahead and try. And he slides off. And then he gets
Gotta give him
angry.
more chances.
Yeah.
Chloe, I totally enjoyed your essay on your Substack. I forget what
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
it was so good. It was so insightful about our flag means death. So check that out. Check out Chloe's Substack. And if you all are into memes and other our flag related hilarity, check out our Instagram at our flag means fanfiction, all one word. And until next time.